Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the Maverick channel, and on this channel we talk about cryptocurrencies and digital currencies. Today I'm going to make a comparison between amongst some of the biggest nations and some of the smallest nations to kind of see their mindset, their thought process in this whole cryptocurrency landscape, Bitcoin adoption, cryptocurrency adoption, the type of attitude they have towards this. So I'm going to show you a little comparison with these different countries. I also want to talk about a little bit of some of the exciting technologies that I like to talk about in this cryptocurrency space. We're going to see some of the name changes or branding changes in this crypto space, and we're going to look at some bullish news. By bullish news, I mean VC capital money, to see where that's flowing, and also to see some of the updates that are happening right now with some of the ecosystems that I'm excited about. But first of all, I want to make for you a comparison. But before we get into this comparison, guys, on this channel I like to talk about utility of digital currencies, real world use cases of cryptocurrencies. And if you're into this kind of thing, guys, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button, because it's really important for my own benefit and energy. You give me that boost to continue doing what I'm doing every single day. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now, this is fresh from Canada.
First, we are broadening the scope of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules so that they cover crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use. These changes cover all forms of transactions, including digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies. The illegal blockades have highlighted the fact that crowdfunding platforms and some of the payment service providers they use are not fully captured under the Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act. Our banks and financial institutions are already obligated to report to the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada, or FINTRAC. As of today, all crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use must register with FINTRAC, and they must report large and suspicious transactions to FINTRAC. This will help mitigate the risk that these platforms receive illicit funds.
So basically, you've just heard that is from Canada. They want to have all rights to block your bank account without any permission, without a court order. This is all under the guise of crime and all of this and money laundering. So they want to, I guess, push the narrative of know your customer. Now, this is just Canada pushing out such an announcement, and immediately after pushing out this announcement, the Bitcoin price pumped. First of all, there's a lot of scares within the current financial economic structure when we look at things like inflation. Inflation in the US the other day spiked to 6%, and it's still an unsustainable rate when we look at inflation, and that's just the US, which basically runs the dollar, which is the global reserve currency. So there's a lot of exported inflation as well when you look at the way the US economy runs, and consequently these effects are spread out to other countries. So when you combine that with these kinds of announcements, the increasing power, because governments are kind of afraid of these things they don't understand, or at least they think they don't understand it, but the cryptocurrency space is growing so much. I think the best bet that governments have is to kind of adopt it and understand it, rather than pushing out this narrative that's supposed to affiliate digital currencies with crime, so that so-called legitimate people stay away from them, and you have a minority of people that are holding cryptocurrencies, and those people can easily be singled out. Maybe these are not their intentions, but the way I hear this, especially someone that's crypto native, it appears that they're expecting the worst from any activity happening in the cryptocurrency space. And clearly we know that we just saw the US recover 3.6 billion the other day of stolen funds, which means cryptocurrencies are easier to trace. So you ask yourself, why are these messages being put forth, yet we know there's better transparency when it comes to cryptocurrencies and very little transparency when it comes to the traditional financial sector? That's the point I'm trying to push through. I'm not trying to push any negative narrative against governments and any person in a position of power. I'm just trying to say there's a little bit of lack of transparency as regards these communications, because the mainstream will take this on surface level and fail to understand what's really beneath these kinds of narratives and communications. But I'll leave this to your own sort of interpretation. I'm not from Canada, so maybe I don't know how the Canadians are perceiving this, but they don't seem to be perceiving it properly. So the comparison I wanted to make, Canada is a pretty big country, and you see with the United States with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, very heavy regulation in the cryptocurrency space, which also seems hardly fair as well when you look at the comparison with XRP or Ripple, the company being sued. We look at some of the old cases, and when you compare that with some of the companies that are being favored, or the ecosystems like Ethereum, Bitcoin can get a pass as well, because I guess because it's one of the most decentralized networks. But if you look at the heavy regulations happening in the US right now, when you look at what is happening in Russia right now, the digital ruble trial goes live as Bank of Russia insists on Bitcoin ban. So you see that the Bank of Russia, the ecosystem of Russia, is really pushing forth this narrative of the central bank digital currencies. We're seeing that narrative being pushed also in Canada as well. But let's focus on the three biggest countries: Russia, China, and the United States. So the Russian central bank is pushing that narrative, and we saw an announcement that Russia is trying to adopt a cryptocurrency movement, which I found rather suspicious because of the way it was announced. In other words, if you trade cryptocurrencies outside of the framework that they formed, then that's a criminal offense. And I'm not so surprised that we have an article like this coming out where the central bank is opposing cryptocurrency adoption and trying to push forward a central bank digital currency narrative. And similarly, we also see, so we have Russia there, and that's what they're doing. We have the US with the SEC that's really clamping down on cryptocurrency adoption, and China says it has closed all crypto exchanges, but traders, miners may still be active. The Chinese central bank, the People's Bank of China, says that all crypto exchanges and peer-to-peer trading platforms that have now been closed down in the mainland. So, but it appears that the authorities are still fighting an ongoing struggle against crypto mining, with many advocates throughout to have taken their operations underground. So, in the past, we've seen a lot of as a consequence of the crypto ban within China, we saw a lot of migration or exodus of miners and cryptocurrency exchanges and that kind of technology outside of the Chinese diaspora. So we're seeing that spread outside of the Chinese diaspora. But what I'm trying to say here, despite all this sort of sentiment that seems kind of negative around the cryptocurrency space, we're seeing continued adoption. Right now, the cryptocurrency market capitalization is above the $2 trillion mark. So what does that tell us? People are more woke. People are more aware of what is happening. So in comparison, if you see those three biggest powers, if you're free to add Canada as well, but if we focus on the three biggest powers right now, look at what the small countries are doing. El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. Belarus, president signs decree to support free circulation of crypto. And Belarus, so look at this. The decree provides a legal basis for Belarus high-tech park to set up a register for crypto wallets used in illegal activity. So of course they want to track this, but as well they want to properly regulate cryptocurrencies, and they're extending a friendly arm, a friendly hand towards the adoption of crypto. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has signed a decree affirming the country's former support of free circulation of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So we've also seen Singapore. These countries have created a very, very fruitful environment as far as cryptocurrency companies are concerned. And we can see a quote here: Belarus is constantly developing the legal field for regulating activities related to digital assets, and unlike many other states, allows free circulation of digital currencies. Some countries get this. They understand that the best bet they have is to allow free innovation, free and fair innovation in the cryptocurrency space. This will actually give them an edge, especially in the way technology is developing right now. A lot of all this technological pool, the manpower is concentrated in a few countries that have the money to hire people to develop technological, to further their technological advancement. So I think crypto has created some sort of framework or landscape to extend that level playing field that we're all looking for. Then we also see Marshall Islands, another small nation, officially recognized as decentralized autonomous organizations as legal entities. The Pacific Island state, long keen to adopt blockchain technology, recognized decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. I'll read this first paragraph to summarize. The Republic of Marshall Islands has moved to formally recognize decentralized autonomous organizations, better known as DAOs, as legal entities, a move that gives collectively owned and managed blockchain projects formal recognition on the global stage. Of course, guys, we know decentralized autonomous organizations is the organizations run by these things called smart contracts, mostly on layer 1 blockchain technologies. So the comparison I'm trying to make here is seeing the big countries and the small countries trying to move away from that overseeing eye of all these big central banks. They're trying to see themselves level their own playing field, democratize their own performance in the financial sector by adopting these new standards in the cryptocurrency state. Then, further to look at some of the cryptocurrencies, when you look at the institutional side of things, some of the adoption of cryptocurrencies that are known but layer 1 technologies that are really coming up, and some of them, the names are really sticking around despite not really participating that well in the bull market as we've known it. But in the past, before the bull market, they really spiked up in price. So some of the cryptocurrencies being looked at by institutions out there: Luna, which is Terra Luna, which is very important in the formation especially of stablecoins, decentralized stablecoins, and it runs on the Cosmos blockchain. We have Tezos as well, which runs this kind of blockchain ecosystem where the blockchain itself is able to form and transform itself depending on the scale and the demands in that particular time, at that particular time, which means as the demand increases, the blockchain is supposed to be able to transform and form itself to be scalable and basically viable for those particular use cases and the throughput and the type of demand. Cosmos is trying to work on interchain connectivity of different blockchains, and these are the reasons as to why some of these blockchains are being adopted. So this article talks about the kind of money flowing into this. So recently created altcoin investment products such as Terra, Tezos, Cosmos also inflows totaling $2.2 million, $0.9 million, and $600,000 respectively. And they also talk about some of the other currencies as well, or the other tokens, if you want to call them that, like Solana and XRP seeing increased adoption by institutions. So if you want to know parallels, also XRP is dealing really with money remittances, and Solana is trying to scale the blockchain ecosystem, being essentially an Ethereum contender, same as Tezos. Cosmos really scaling, I've already talked about those ones, and Terra Luna really trying to democratize that stablecoin industry. And in case you haven't heard about this news, there's something which is, so in other news on the Binance ecosystem, there's the Bnb token, which is the native token of the Binance centralized exchange, and there's the Binance Smart Chain, which was an organization that created this thing called the Binance Smart Chain, and the Binance Labs invested in them. So it became something that really pumped up the Binance ecosystem, or it was something that was really good, an innovation added onto the Binance ecosystem that was really good for the development of the Binance blockchain itself, and that's why we see it garnered tremendous amount of adoption, arguably the most used blockchain currently. So the Binance Smart Chain is now the Bnb chain. So they've officially integrated this. They've removed the whole confusion between the Bnb chain and the Binance Smart Chain. So the Binance Smart Chain now becomes the Bnb chain, the infrastructure for the MetaFi universe. They're calling it MetaFi. They're coming from decentralized finance. They're calling this Meta Finance as well. So of course, this article just talks about the history of BNB, the history of the Binance Smart Chain network and their integration. So this is going to be extremely, I guess, it's going to be a good advantage. It's going to bring some advantages, some competitive advantages, especially combining the liquidity and removing that confusion between the two ecosystems. So congratulations for the Binance and creating a new word, MetaFi, that will hopefully work for them as we move forward. We'll see how this expands in the future. And then lastly, what I want to talk about today, Fetch.AI. This was a conversation between Human Chic and a host here, so business reporter here. And Human Chic was talking about the Fetch.AI technology. In case you do not know about it, they're doing these things called autonomous agents, which they're now calling digital twins, which are essentially supposed to work on your behalf, on the behalf of a machine. And in this conversation, it was mainly alluding to the fact that they're pushing this narrative of true peer-to-peer communication. Those that have been around the cryptocurrency space, that was basically the most basic and most important feature that Bitcoin introduced, allowing that peer-to-peer communication, essentially removing all third parties. So what Fetch.AI is setting out to do is truly automating that process, truly automating that peer-to-peer process, introducing things like sovereign ownership of your identity and sovereign ownership of your data. So having this true peer-to-peer communication, which is as well private and cannot be stopped by any entity out there, and of course there's no third parties between there except for the pure technology and smart contracts. This is the main narrative that Fetch.AI is trying to do with this kind of economy and open economic framework that they're forming. And there was a question that was asked at the 9:45 mark, which is the adoption, and I'm going to play it for you right now.
Question I would like to ask is that for many people looking at this, it needs adopters, because until you've got people adopting and taking on this technology and using it, it doesn't become then widespread enough for it to make it viable. What are you doing to make this become the go-to way of getting business in the future, and the go-to way of getting your plumber, your electrician in the future?
Any new business model takes time, and we are looking to launch it in different sectors in a very contained manner so that we can get people used to what we do, we get people used to this new way of doing business. Of course it takes time, and we have to be focused on certain verticals, and service vertical is where we think we're going to be narrowly focused to deliver this service.
And where do you see this new technology going? You're talking about Web 3, so maybe looking at Web 4 or 5. Where do you think it's going to go over, say, the next 10 years or so?
Over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see machine learning and AI penetrating the markets on the edges, which means that it will not have to sit in this big centralized entity. It will be trickling down to the normal, common people, the usual people who want to use this technology. But it needs to be in a way that people can actually not only just use it, but also monetize it. And that's...
So I guess basically talking about how these agents can be used for different services, because the purpose of these digital twins that they're now calling them is to have an understanding of whoever owns them. So they have data. This data is sovereign. They understand everything, or at least it keeps getting updated about the particular owner of this agent, so it encapsulates that data, and then this agent is able to communicate and negotiate with other agents. That's essentially the narrative, the purpose of these agents, to make it easy to make decisions on behalf of an owner to, for example, purchase a plane ticket on a particular aisle of a particular plane on a particular day, given there's a particular percentage reduction in the price of the plane ticket. So the agent will automatically do that on your behalf, and this can happen in so many other fields when it goes to parking agents and managing so many other things, financial companies, supply chains, when it comes to even centralized finance and decentralized finance. Some products have been created using this technology. So I think it's one of the ecosystems that I'm really looking at to see the way cryptocurrencies can really develop and really introduce these new concepts that existed before, but truly bring them to life and materialize them, and bring their use case to true utility as we move forward. All right, guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.